Dear friends, good evening. A warm welcome to each one of you to
Good
this.
evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, a warm welcome to each one of you to this technical consultation on e-Shram portal for unorganized workers. I just want to introduce myself at the moment, since I am talking to you at the moment. I am CG Chako, the director of Main Migrant Assistance and Information Network, a collective initiative of the Jesuit Conference of India and South Asia. And now just coming to the, the program per se by way of an introduction. As we are aware, the COVID-19 pandemic brought to light the glaring plight of the informal sector workers, especially the migrant workers. The mass exodus that we have had witnessed, especially during the lockdown, the first phase and the second phase, we witnessed all of them. And with the pressure exerted by the civil society and the non-governmental organizations and the Supreme Court of India stepping in, thanks to the Supreme Court, the Government of India has launched the e-Shram portal for the registration of all unorganized sector and informal workers in the country. So e-Shram portal, as all of you are aware, is indeed a significant step towards registering unorganized workers, including construction laborers, migrant workers, street vendors, and domestic workers, and platform workers, and many other people from different sectors. So workers from these categories, though forming the bulk of the country's labor force, remained by and large invisible, thanks to the efforts of many of the NGOs, civil society groups, and all of you, each one of you, all of you have contributed to the to bring to light the plight of the migrant workers in our country. Often, migrant workers are not provided any form of social security and protection, though there are, some arrangements here and there, but then there is a lot of systemic engagement required. So this particular portal provides all the registered workers an e-Shram card containing a 12-digit UAN, universal account number, and they can access benefits of the government schemes even if they are working outside the state. So the registration of workers on the portal is coordinated by the Labor Ministry, state governments and trade unions and common service centers. A national toll-free number is available to assist and address the queries of the workers regarding the registration of the portal. So workers can register on the e-Shram portal. The website definitely is, all of you are aware of, using their Aadhaar number and saving bank account and using IFSC code of the bank account. While only time can tell whether the e-Shram card would be effective in delivering justice for the informal workers and restoring their dignity, a time-bound implementation could prove to be effective in providing informal workers with the much-needed social security entitlements and protection. So on the basis of the current information, my dear friends, everything is not very well with the portal, as many of us are again aware of. Although we are in the initial stage of the registration process, it is important to acknowledge the importance of engaging with the workers, organizations, unions, NGOs, and other working, like people working with the unorganized sector especially. So it is with this intent that to bring to light the e-Shram portal and also look at this in a very deeper way, in a studied manner, to take the learnings forward that all of us have come together. The Migrant Assistance and Information Network, for which I am the director, based in the Indian Social Institute, then Caritas India, Labor Office of the Catholic Bishop Conference of India, SVDs and Don Bosco's for Migrants, have decided to jointly convene this technical consultation on the e-Shram portal. We also are in very close conversations with IGSSS, Indian Social Institute Delhi, and others too. So thanks a lot, my dear friends, for joining for this consultation. The objectives would further be shared by the facilitating person. So I take this opportunity once again to thank each one of you to this technical consultation. At the very outset, I would like to thank Father Eugene, who would be facilitating this session, and also Anil, both of them along with me. I mean, all three of us have been working closely on making this happen. And just I would be, requesting Father Eugene Eugene Pereira to share, facilitate this session from now. Just a word of introduction about Father Eugene. Father Eugene Pereira is the Secretary of Labor Office of the CBCI. And he is also the Director of Workers Indian Federation. He is also an advocate, social activist. He has had a lot of engagements with the fishery, workers movement, fishery workers movement, and many social interventions in Kerala and in many other parts of the country. He is also well connected to the government of India's the labor and other units and organizations, related organizations. So thanks a lot. Over to you, Father Eugene, for facilitating and then taking it further. Thanks a lot. Over to you.
Good evening, friends. Good evening. Respected speakers on the panel, dear friends. The pandemic COVID was a moment of soul searching. The civil society, NGOs, academia, media, and the whole government was grouping in darkness to address the issues of the migrants. At that process, on 8th September 2020, the Labour Department of the Government of India has come out with an advisory guideline instructing the state governments to begin nodal offices and facilitation centers and registration of migrants. It was on September 2020, and nothing much moved. And it was at this, there is civil society organizer together at their own level doing almond services. And this dialogue is part of that search. On 15th March 2020, to initiate a synergy of all actors in the field. That was our concern, all actors in the field. Main Migrant Assistance and Information Network, as Dr. Siji was saying, Caritas India, Migrant Commission of CB4SCO, Migrants SVD, Labor Office CBCI, later Nirman. Now today we have trade union counterparts, IGSS, ISI, etc. gathered. This is a minuscule gathering, but it is to discuss on the technical aspect of the e-Shram. And in between, you may remember, Niti Aayog, Government of India, has come out with certain directive to facilitate the internal migration, but remained as it began, where it started. That time, the second wave of COVID stalled the whole country, and we were all in panic. But we did not remain stunned. On 29th June 2021, because of the engagement of various civil society organizations, the Honorable Supreme Court of India has come out with a speaking order. Why remain so silent? Why the governments are not acting? It is a speaking order. Having come out with that order, the searching team again met on 6th September. It was at this juncture we gathered together to introspect into the very technology of the portal. We have doubts about the very safety of the information. That's the fundamental of a portal, the safety of the information and various other proposals made. But I think this is an opportune moment that we give face to the faceless. And therefore, I think it should be a massive movement created in the country so that 47 crore informal, unorganized migrant workers get a face. Definitely the limitations can be through negotiation rectified. It is with this great motive and contributing to the country and unorganized workers we gather and search is organized. We have 4 renowned speakers. They may take 10 minutes each to highlight on the issues this portal has. And we have about 6 respondents in. They may take 5 minutes each. And all the participants will have time, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, so that it is with the Labor Department, Government of India on the e-portal. And she is a person journeying with real marginalized, unorganized workers in the country. I welcome Dr. Sonia George to highlight on the e-portal, e-Shram portal. Welcome, Sonia George.
We will begin the session with Ms. Sonia George. Sonia George is the General Secretary of SEWA. She has been working extensively on workers, especially women workers in the unorganized sector. Let me welcome Sonia Ji to give her opening remarks and begin the section.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this deliberation on the e-Shram portal that the Government of India has launched on August 26th. And I think the information on the portal and how it has been come into existence, that is already explained by Dr. Siji, and also Father Eugene has explained that, so I don't have to further go into the technical details of it. So as of now, what the government is saying is that more than 1 crore workers have registered in the portal. That is the information that we are getting, and on pan-India basis, that is the data that we are getting. So there have been many discussions, concerns, apprehensions, uncertainties, means all those things are going around in different parts of the country regarding the registration in the portal and also the benefits, sustainability, what is going to happen to the different schemes with regard to different boards with regard to the informal sector in different states, and also already operating under the Social Security Board and Organized Sector Social Security Board. So as we already acknowledge that it is the first kind of a thing that the Government of India is launching a portal for the registration of the informal workers who are the majority of the labor force in this country. Till August 26th, if we see, apart from certain states that are registering their workers as part of the welfare boards, there are no specific kind of recognition or identity for the informal workers in the country. They just go to work. If there are no means of work, means no work, means no wages, no benefits, nothing. So they have to, means their livelihood itself is questioned. That is what the pandemic has exposed, the vulnerabilities of the migrant workers, means lakhs and lakhs of migrant workers, and also of the informal workers who were working as part of self-employed workers, or who were part of MSMEs, micro, medium and small enterprises, and also sectors like domestic workers, street vendors or people who are working in the traditional sectors, waste pickers, means numerous informal workers in the country who are not even identified as sectors in the labor list, in the schedule of work employment in the country. So that means they are not at all recognized, and there are no means of supporting them when such kind of pandemic or uncertainties or means natural disasters or whatever emergencies happen. And we have witnessed many such kind, like earthquakes or floods, or now we are means engaging with the pandemic for the last 1.5 years, and this persisting effect of the pandemic, that is one of the eye openers, for the country. Means the Supreme Court has insisted the government that the government should finish the survey and registration of the informal workers in the country by 31st December 2021. Maybe it may be, we consider it as too ambitious a project, but at least the government, taking it seriously, has thought of registering the workers in the process. So maybe as a first step, means I have been part of the discussions that have taken place with the central trade unions of the country, with the minister, the labor minister, and Labour Minister, Minister of State, and other officials, Secretary and other officials, and all 11 central trade unions of the country participated in the discussions. And most of the unions, they have welcomed this portal, implementation of the portal from the government. And that is really a good approach, to recognize the informal economy of the country, means who are the major contributors to the economy of the country. So that is something that we have to recognize. And the process is going on, and there have been several concerns that is raised by different stakeholders in the process. Maybe first of all, the thing is that informal workers are so scattered. That means they are out of the common labor frame of the country. Means they are not at all organized, means very few of the informal economy, maybe 10 to 15% of the informal economy is organized. Informal workers are organized by the entire trade union system in the country. Maybe civil society organizations and other membership-based organizations have organized few of them, but majority, the major chunk, is out of any organizing process in the country. That means these people are so scattered. So I was raising a particular example. For example, for a domestic worker, for them, somebody else's home is a workplace. So that means they are working with an employer, an visible employer. That is why what we always term the domestic worker as, even though the employer is visible, they are, in terms of any technicalities, the employer is completely invisible. So that means they stay apart from the entire organizing process of workers or any other benefits in the country. Means they don't have access to such systems. For example, we can take a migrant domestic worker who are coming from one of the states like Jharkhand or Bihar or Orissa to a particular city. That means those workers are completely invisible. The employers never expose their identities or expose their presence in their houses. Even if a labor inspector or somebody goes from the local government or somebody, means the employers will never expose such a worker. So how are we going to get this process access to such a worker? Means that is, I'm narrating this example to say about the complexity of a process, means of the registration of this wide category of informal workers in the country. So that means access to registration, access to the process, access to the portal, means access to the the digital world, how many of the workers have access, means when you talk about that process in such a country. So that means so many other things come out, say several, as we know about so many processes like Aadhaar or electoral cards or whatever kind of maybe merging
Identity.
merging Aadhaar with means PAN card, means there are several processes. So there are several mediators who are coming in the process, means charging huge amount from these poor workers, in terms of registration and those kinds of things. So that is going to, maybe the government claims that there are like around more than 1 lakh CSCs, this common service centers that will facilitate the process. They can go to local government institutions if they want some support. The government is saying all these processes, but still how many percentage of the workers, means as we are saying this 47 million of workers, how many percentage can access this system as a whole? So that is one of the main concerns that we have raised in the process. How much? So what is the system that government has developed that each and every worker in the country who represents the informal sector could access this registration? That is one of the first thing that I would like to put before you, means my first concern in the process. And the second thing is that means informal sector, as I have said, they are very, means the sector itself is wide and complex. Means the workers themselves have different kinds of complexities, means in terms of, as we have said, the notion of multiple identities of a worker, means a worker doing multiple jobs at different levels. The workers who are, means for example, a domestic worker has an employer. Means how many of the employees are identified in the process. Many workers are self-employed, means they are on-account workers, those who work in on-account. Many workers work in micro or nano enterprises where they are, means they are out of this formal categorization of less than 10 workers, means many nano enterprises, industries are there. And now because of all this ease of doing business and many of the formalities, to avoid those formalities, the employees have strictly divided the number of workers so that they are able to bypass the legalities of the process. So that means wherever there are employees, there are employers also, means this process will easily, means it's giving an easy walkover for the employers in that sense. Employers have no role in the process. So that means we are not mentioning in the portal, there is nothing to mention that these workers are employees of these workers. If I am a worker working with this particular employer, I don't have any space to record or document my employer in the process. That means who is responsible for this particular worker? And for a self-employed, what should be the process? Does the state have any kind of responsibility to the social security of the self-employed or on-account enterprise worker? So these are some of the questions that, when it comes to the registration, we are engaging with the government. Means how is it possible, whether this recognition of the employer or my identity in relation to an employer is possible in the process. And the third thing is that existing social security provisions, many of the states have various social security provisions that is already being practiced, means as part of state act and also central acts. Means I represent a state, means Kerala. Means Kerala is well known for its social security benefits for the unorganized sector in the state, and it has many such boards. Apart from that, from 2016 onwards, there is an unorganized sector. There's an unorganized sector. Can you please note others? Its disturbance is coming. So this unorganized sector, social security board, and those kinds of things where much better benefits are being given in Maharashtra. The Matadi board, means there are several examples of such boards are there. So there are different such kinds of boards existing in different states. So what is going to happen to these boards? That is a major concern that we have raised while we were interacting with the minister. So the state has no clear-cut answers. Central Ministry has no clear-cut answers for these kind of questions, because they have not thought about it much. Means how could it be beneficial for the informal sector in the country on a larger scale, as a larger entity, because it is not only registration and the social security benefits that have been announced. The major thing is 2 lakh, means this accident benefits, which when we are means the worker is encountered with an accident, means that is the benefit, that is the main benefit that the government is propagating as part of this. But the workers are not thinking about accident benefit first. They want their immediate benefits like food, livelihood security, other forms of social security, children security. There are many other needs that a worker needs, pension or other ESI or such benefits. So that is another thing with regard to ESI. So in mostly this process says that, means in definition of the informal workers also, those who are not under the ESI or EPF process. But there are other definitions which include many of the informal workers, as I was saying, those who are working in small and marginal enterprises. Many of those informal workers are covered under ESI benefits. So what is happening now, if you are part of an ESI scheme and if you are not able to register, means that will be avoiding many informal workers in this process. So that is another concern that we have to think about. Means it's like the intersection of different benefits at different points. The government has not taken a serious thinking process, means how it is going to benefit or how it is going to affect, or how the work, means it will prevent workers from accessing their right as an informal economy worker. So that is something that we have to very seriously think about in this process. And also the government has said, means we have, for example, in a home-based category, there are many workers who are like supporting family members in the process. Means many women, means they are not direct workers, but they are supporting the main worker in the family, maybe the male member, who they perform most of the work, but they are not recognized as workers. So who is going to identify them as workers in the process? Even their family themselves won't allow them to register in the process. So there is a chance of women being marginalized in the process. There are that is again, when I was saying about the migrant women, this is another home-based category of workers. That means there are also probabilities of these workers getting out of or not getting access to this process. So that is something that we have to take seriously. And now the government has said that the gig and platform economy workers. When you think about that, when you go into the definition, means all these will be linked to the social security code that maybe the government, now we are saying they have postponed the implementation, postponed the notification of the code for another year for various reasons. But when the social security code is coming into existence, the definitions under the social security code of informal workers, the wage worker, the self-employed worker, or the employee, all these are contradictory. That means many workers under these categories, if the government is saying gig and platform worker, they are included, but according to the definition of, means only they are mentioned in the social security code, they are not mentioned in any other code. So that means certain benefits you can claim like social security in a very general per se, but you will not be able to claim any benefits as a worker in that particular sector. So this sectorial intervention, sectorial recognition will be bypassed when this portal will be in place. That is, means will be taken as the reference point. That is one of the other concerns that we are taking into consideration. So I think, even though it's a good attempt that we say that to recognize the migrants, for example, migrant workers, is migration itself is a circular process. There are different processes: seasonal migrants, temporary migrants, permanent migrants, and there are many such systems that is being, means for example, one nation, one ration card system. But when you go and talk to the real migrants, no, it will not work for them in the process, because half of their family will be in some place, half will be in another place, half will be in another place. So how many ration cards that a person could have, that they are asking? Means we want our families whom we have left in our own states to have the benefit. They cannot live without. But at the same time, we need benefits from the state that we are working as part of our working situation. So none of these questions, these complexities have been thought about well in this process. That is the complexity of the informal working class in India, and that has to be taken seriously. So it is our responsibility as concerned unions, civil society organizations, and academia or whoever it is. How do we take this process, and how do we really build on this process which has started by the government, know the pros and cons of it, the limitations of it, the possibilities of it, and how do we work towards the recognition of the majority of the workers in the process, and last but not the least, means on the technicality of the process. I was saying no the access, at the same time no the technical cues in the process, means when it is, means many of the workers are complaining that we are not getting into the portal maybe through even 5 attempts. So maybe after that they stop. They will just think that no, I'm not no more going to that, because I have to spend 1 day to go there, and means I have to lose my 1 day's wages to go and register in this particular CSE or somewhere it is. So how are we going to rectify these technical know-hows of this process? Means all these are real concerns for the poor, marginalized migrant workers and informal workers of this country, like the women, the Dalit, Adivasis, and those people who have been kept out of all this recognition process. So I think let us think about this process as a holistic process from these perspectives, so that we are able to help, or we are able to facilitate the recognition of these workers in the country's workforce, and also bringing them their voice to the mainstream labor discourse of the society. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia George. I call upon Mr. Chandan Kumar, the National Coordinator of Workers' People's Charter. He is a prominent labor activist associating with the trade unions, and at the level of panchayats have been working. Mr. Chandan Kumar to present his observations on the portal. Kindly keep to the time as much as possible. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you, Father Eugene. And thank you, Anil, for all the friends, comrades from the main network for inviting me to speak on this very, very important issue. I was hearing to Sister Sonia, and also before the other, my previous speakers. I don't know from where to start, because there's already so much spoken on this issue. And I was thinking to speak on a couple of issues, but Sister Sonia has already raised it. So while listening to her, I was thinking that what should I say, which my other previous speakers have not covered. So let me try, and I would like to really focus on this whole political economy of this whole mess which we are seeing and experiencing of informal workers, particularly coming from and withdrawing the lessons from the pandemic and the migrant workers crisis, what we saw during pandemic time. So as a WPC, we issued a statement sharp at 4 o'clock immediately after when the government formally launched the portal, because we were preparing ourselves that what exactly is going to be done. We already had all the insights, because there was a tripartite the meeting called by Honorable Labour Minister Bhupendra Yadav at Delhi, and some of our friends and comrades were there in that kind of pre-launch with the trade unions. And so we had those insights that what they're going to discuss, what we're going to talk about that. And we came up with some of the ideas that what this portal covers, what this portal doesn't cover, and what should be, kind of positioning ourselves in this critical situation. Let me begin by saying, I think it's a long battle, it's a long quest of the working class. When I see this country is so fragmented and divided by the fastest kept list, kind of binaries. and you see that you go to southern belt and the western belt, the workers coming from Bihar, Bengal, Jharkhand, Odisha, and how they discriminated on the questions of linguistics, on the question of caste, on the question of their religion and everything. And I'm based in Maharashtra, and I can give you a very quick example. If any workers coming from Bihar or the Purvanchal or the Bihar or the Bengal, and the way they're discriminated between this whole linguistic politics, that you are a Bihari, you are a Bhaiya, and all this thing. And in this situation, you are having a card which says that you are a workers, you are technically, by default citizens of this country. I think is a big achievement. I see that this is a very, very revolutionary, a landmark step as far as the recognition of the workers is concerned in the city, because you know that in absence of even that basic ID, how the local mafia, how the local, the goons work in the labor market and how they exploit these workers. I think that's a very, very important milestone. However, we cannot forget the other aspects, and these other aspects are very, very scary in a way. Some of are already touched by the previous speakers, but let me begin by sharing a couple of those concerns. The first thing is about that it has been the position of the larger central trade unions and also the other workers organizations that let's not we reject the labor codes, because this labor codes is basically dismantling and also going to be basically completely attack on the working class, and also going to dismantle the legacy of 100 years, the whole labor law making and enactment process the last 100 years. And you see that the whole e-Shram card is being given under the labor code on social security. So technically this is a first step of implementation of the labor codes, and we all are desperate. We all are in such a huge situation, especially the informal workers unions and the organizations, that we are accepting it, we are welcoming it, we don't have any opinion, but technically government is basically forcing us to implement the labor code, and I see the e-Shram card is a first step towards those implementation. That's the first thing. The second thing is about, if you see the whole imposition on the states, one of the questions which is being raised all the time, that what will be the future of all the sectoral boards. And if I take some of the examples about, let's say Tamil Nadu, there are multiple boards functioning under the Tamil Nadu Manual Labor Act. Again, you go to Maharashtra, there are multiple boards, for the security guards, for the head loaders, for the domestic workers, for the sugarcane harvesting workers. So many, the sectoral boards, tripartite boards, which have been functioning very well. What will be the future? And now the government is saying that all kind of workers, whether you are registered with any board, you have to basically get the e-Shram card. And I think this is absolutely a violation of the whole federalism, where the labor is situated in the concurrent list of the constitution, and now you are basically forcing all the states to basically accept it. For what? If you read the central legislation, which is Labor Code on Social Security, where you have not given any power to the state. The entire power framework, talk about the National Social Security Board framework, talk about all the social security, the legislations, everything is being controlled by the center. And why would, and if you're not doing, the sharing the power balance and doing that, why would center basically accept it? They're going to basically preserve their own sectoral boards. So what exactly you're going to do with this e-Shram card? You're only going to give them this card and going to offer such a failed and useless social security schemes, which is a PMJY, which is all these schemes which already failed, is a non-starter. Workers are not going to believe on that. So this is a second point I would like to highlight, that how this e-Shram card is going to basically access the social security, because there will be a lot of power power imbalance between the center and the state. The third point I would like to highlight about the role of unions and role of the workers' organizations. The previous speakers already raised about it. There's a whole portal called CSC portal. I think Dharmendra Bhai is there. He can speak more about that. He's been experiencing and dealing with it. And there's a whole kind of private sector kind of people, and I've been experiencing in Maharashtra. And now you go basically do the login, pay the 1,400 rupees, and then you have to go through have to give some written test, and then you basically get the license for the CSC registration. What is a CSC registration? These CSC registration basically allows you to basically register the workers, but you see the labor market and the large number of informal worker situation. If your mobile number is not linked with the Aadhaar, you can't create that. You have a lot of these other errors where the Aadhaars and mobile number, which already talked about that. These CSC centers will be given to individuals or any organization also. They will not have such kind of issues to resolve it. At the end of days, you have to go to some kind of the government authenticated centers, and then they will do it. You think about the millions of people in the agriculture sector, the millions of workers in the fisheries, millions of workers, as Sonia said, in the home-based workers living in the slums. I mean, the whole digital divide, digital literacy, digital divide, and non-access, you are going to basically exclude almost, if I say, honestly, 70 to 80% workforce would not have any kind of access. And therefore, there have to be a basically special, kind of provisions where the unions and the workers' organizations should be given this CSC license in a way where they can basically do all or fix all these errors. Only kind of random license will not help. This is what also we raised in our statement. This is the third point I wanted to highlight. The fourth point, which is the whole questions about the limiting the age, and if you read the data, I mean, they're limiting the age to get the registration, the E-Shram portal, and they're barring the age, which is 59 years. I mean, nobody can do the registration after the age of 60. I mean, we as a society, we don't provide any pensions. We don't provide any sort of social security. And you're restricting such a huge population. I mean, there is basically a rough estimate that over 100 million people, will be fall under this category. So technically, you are already removing almost 1/5 of the total working population to having access of this E-Shram portal. So this is the fourth important point I wanted to highlight, that this is itself is a very, very exclusionary and will basically restrict so many workforce to basically access it. The fifth question, which I think the whole debate of the data privacy, and there is no security, there's no safeguard. If you read the Central Social Security Code rules, basically, and it talks about that these data basically will be used by the aggregator. These data will be available for a lot of these private companies. Data is a gold in today's world, and there is a data privacy bill which is pending now. 2019, they basically brought in the bill, and Parliament never debated about that. We already know what happened in Aadhaar. We already know that how this country is being divided in this whole religion line and all these lines basically. And I don't know how these workers' data, our political masters is going to use it for that. But they're going to sell it to the, the kind of the whole crony capitalist kind of regime or the political class. Whether they will use it for what reason, we have no idea. So we need to really, restrict these leakages where they can misuse this data in very, very, I think, in the very, very, kind of very negative manner. This is one of my biggest fear, that these data are like gold. If they sell it to the companies like Uber, Zomato, the whole segments of gig workers, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but workers is not going to get any benefits, and they will be making millions of dollars out of that. So this is a fifth point I wanted to highlight that. And the last point, which I started talking about, that this whole debate of sectoral board, I would like to again highlight the one particular question. If the Central Social Security Code doesn't talk about that how the social security schemes will be given, who is going to provide that, what will be the contribution, will be given by the state, whether there will be any contribution, coming from the workers. I mean, there is a provision for the gig workers, I know that, but what about the other segment of the workforce? And I would like to remind you, if you remember that the first draft of the Social Security Code, it talked about the 4 criteria of the Social Security. The one criteria where the workers and employers will contribute. The second criteria where a small contribution will come from the state, small contribution come from the employer. And there was one criteria where the workers do not earn from the minimum wages, then there will be 100% the state contribution. And that was basically the whole demand, that those workers who can't afford it, give them a social security. Then you read the draft 2.0, then again diluted. By the time that the fourth version of the draft came, it is just a repackaging of Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008. And, and I feel absolutely, devastated when I'm reading the rules now being framed in the state. I was just reading the Maharashtra rules yesterday because the Maharashtra rules is published. I also saw the Odisha rules. When I'm seeing all these rules, the state is completely on the same line. If you remember, the 2008 Act was passed on 31st of December 2008, and since then this act never got implemented because the central never committed any sort of money. The same story after 13 years, because they have diluted all the versions, and now this current version is just a repackaging of the older act. The same thing. The whole debate now is that what kind of social security was going to provide that. At the one side, you're kind of encouraging center to dismantle your sectoral board, which is functioning very well. At the same time, you're not going to allocate any money as far as center is concerned. On the state level, the kind of rules is being framed. Now they are saying that the state may provide, state may do something, and there's not even a mention about the workers facilitation center. There's not even a mention about the workers helpline. So okay, I agree, this ID card will definitely a big thing, but after ID card, there's no guarantee that how this ID card is going to use, what kind of social security they're going to facilitate, what kind of entitlements they're going to access. So it's a whole blurred line, the whole blurred line. Our demand should be that, okay, you have given the e-Shram. Of course, if you ask me, like the activist like me, I would say, okay, it's a bingo, it's a great thing. We accept it. Now, our job should be that we should be asking this question to our, the people's representative. Okay, you are saying that you have registered the 1 crore of the workers. Now, can you tell us that who are these categories? What are these occupations? Who are these workers from the which states, right? And what is your plan for creating the sectoral social security? Because that is the main demand. If you read the Central Social Security Code draft, this talks about the reference of the Second Labour Commission, the Ravindra Verma Commission report, and they also talk about the references of the NCOS report. And if these things are there in your preliminary and kind of preamble line, why you're not mentioning in the code the rules draft also being legislated in the state? So my only worry and my only apprehension is that the giving card is a one thing, but after card there's nothing going to be guaranteed. And a lot of states which have been very, very sensitive, and it is also very, very political question, like states like Tamil Nadu, states like Maharashtra, states like Telangana, they really, really want to preserve their social security system, which they've created over the years, is also the political question. And now under this whole new regime, they're encouraging to dismantle it, and they're not offering anything. So for me, after card, it is going to be the non-starter. Government, this whole exercise is only meant to basically gather the data of the workers, which can be used for a lot of reasons, which I just highlighted about that. So I just wanted to say these points. I think a lot of points already covered. So, but yes, I'm excited about this. At the same time, I'm also very, very nervous and scared the way things are unfolding. Yeah, thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. I do agree with our previous speakers, Comrade Chandan and Sister Sonia, to a great extent. But with that, I would also like to say that this is quite promising. There are larger concerns around e-Shram and the collection and compilation of data of 38 crore informal workers. Let me take from Comrade Chandan. The larger concerns also include some other concerns which are yet to be mentioned. And when we see it as a database, data can be used in multiple ways. It can also be misused. And there are certain data rights that communities also have. There are a lot that is not answered at the moment. As a data activist, since I also work on e-commerce, there also we were alarmed by how the data being generated by e-commerce users, buyers, sellers, platform owners is going to be used to make more and more profit by corporations. And not providing the data right or the access to that data to the people who have actually contributed to create that data. So here again, I see it from that perspective that it is the 38 crore people who are collectively creating a product. So how that product is going to benefit them and how they can access this data, or are they going to have any right over these collective data for their benefits? When I said that this is promising, this looks promising, workers' access to data is promising, and in multiple ways, I can think of possibility of using this as a tool, as a weapon to fight for the rights. We should not rule out this possibility that though this is only mandated to have a database, that database can politically be turned as a weapon to fight for the rights. That possibility and opportunity is there. But coming back to the basic questions that is before us right now, that is this exercise going to be inclusive? And is this going to be accessible? So inclusiveness and accessibility are the current alarming questions that we encounter with this portal and with this whole exercise. And are there enough checks and balances to make it inclusive? As we see it, it's not there. You do not have any third way to get registered on eShram portal. There are only two ways. You have to self-register, or you have to approach a CSC or CSC-like centers. So this makes it evident that the onus of registration is not on employer, is not with the government, but is with the worker themselves. This is problematic. The court has ordered the government. The court has not ordered the worker. Government must take accountability to register all who are unregistered, who are undocumented, who are informal, who are migrants.
Yeah.
So the onus needs to be shifted from workers to the state. How? We have many ways to do that. The second question that is coming, that how is this going to benefit workers? Of course, we have boards, many boards existing, and there are certain rights that they are entitled to under that board. For example, building and construction workers, there are 16 benefits that workers can have. But here there is just one benefit that has been linked right now with the portal, that is of 2 lakh insurance in case of death and 1 lakh in case of disability by accident. This is not enough to motivate workers. So this again is linked to the question of making it inclusive and also fighting out the fears that workers have. The workers who are already registered with the board have a genuine fear that, am I going to lose the benefits that I already have? So on the one hand, they have mandated benefits for which they are also paying, their employers are also paying. On the other hand, they have something which is unknown. So this is haunting them actually, and this is keeping them away from the whole process. As Chandan rightly said, that this is a first step following from the latest labor codes and is a design of the social security. schemes. So that we can understand that this is going to address the social security concerns of informal workers. But the question is how? How is the convergence of existing social security schemes being planned to get integrated with the e-SRA portal? Right now, this all has been left to the state, and there are just mere statements that, okay, we are getting the data, and the states are free to use this data to deliver welfare schemes, to deliver social security schemes. What schemes? Which schemes? There is no answer. All this is leading to confusions, and all these are basically keeping many workers away from this process. So it's better to arrive to an answer to all these questions. What is going to be the future of all those who are already registered? What is going with the rights that they are already entitled to? And how this data is going to deliver them not just a scheme, not just welfare, but the rights that they have as a worker. So these are larger questions, but maybe since I am working on implementation also, so I would just like to briefly mention some of the issues that we are encountering. As CG rightly mentioned in the beginning that there are issues with the server and all that. So we all know that this is hard to register on e-SRA portal. And as I see the dashboard of the ministry, more than 1.5 crore people have already registered on e-SRA. This might look or sounds like a big number, 1.5 crore, but if we go by the timeline of registering 38 crore by the end of this year, we are far behind the target. We should have registered more than 10 crore by today, but it's just 1.5 crore. So something needs to be done at the central level so that the traffic that is there for registration can be handled. Right now, the server is not able to handle the traffic, and that's the message that millions of workers are seeing on their screen every day, that there is too heavy traffic to handle. It's not the traffic that is heavy, it's the server which is light. We need to make the server heavy to handle the heavy traffic. On registration, there are certain things which are mandatory, but most of the things are not mandatory. If I look at the registration forms, there looks to be some emphasis on education and skill. So from that, I can foresee or I can think that the state might be willing to use this data to frame some skill development schemes for unskilled workers or semi-skilled workers or prior skilled workers. So there are some intentions which are evident through the registration form. One is, as I said, skilling workers. But as Sister Sonia had said, that there is no information of employer. They have been left free. It's only the workers whose information are being gathered. On registration, the biggest hurdle is that even if a worker is digitally literate and he carries a smartphone with internet access, or he is able to access a CSC or any other center which can register him or her, the biggest hurdle that we are seeing on the ground that workers do not carry in most cases the mobile number they had registered with the Aadhaar. And to update mobile number with the Aadhaar, neither he can do it himself or herself, nor CSCs are empowered to do it. You have to go back to the Aadhaar center where there are biometric facilities, and only with the biometric facilities available with few Aadhaar centers, you can update your mobile number. This is a huge deterrent for success of this e-portal. So unless we decentralize the biometric upgradation process of Aadhaar and linkage of mobile with Aadhaar, this number is not going to be achieved by end of this year. That's my fear. Last but not the least, I will say that there are certain categories which are missing and we need to add more categories. For example, working with Delhi workers, yesterday I got a call from Old Delhi that I am a palledar, loader, unloader. I do not find a category. And palledar, loader, unloader is a huge category. There are millions of workers who are doing loading, unloading in our mandis, in our markets, wholesale markets, retail markets, vegetable wholesale markets, fruits wholesale markets. But there is one category called porter. So I finally guided him that there is one category called porter. If you wish, you can register yourself as a porter, or there is an option of registration as other. And there you can mention yourself as palledar. But living behind that, when you visit a workplace, a mandi like place, it's not just loaders and unloaders. There are people who are handling computers, who are assisting businesses, businessmen, businesswomen, and they are often called munsis. So there is no category like that here. So I can see that there are many major categories which are missing. With women workers, there is already a concern that has been raised that home-based workers, that is missing as a category. Now again, it's a question, it's a political question. Does government want to see all those women working from home as a home-based worker? Or does the government want to see them divided, based on the occupation? So right now it's divided. So again, I'm not sure whether we should go for
example, BD workers.
Yeah, BD workers. I mean, there are many workers.
They are working from home. They are working from home.
Yes.
Ladies.
Yeah. So in the NOC list, you will find occupation which are being done from home, but you won't find home-based worker as a single standard category.
Yeah,
include them all.
Thank you, Dharmendra.
Yeah, thank you, Father.
He has been exposing the innate. Yeah, thank you very much. You have been exposing the innate issues within the portal, as well as the data could be used as a tool for negotiation. Thank you very much. We will proceed with discussion. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us to participate in this. It was great hearing everyone. I don't think so there is anything to add to what was said. I think it will only be repetitive, because all of us have been experiencing the with regard to the technical issues, we know the server hasn't been working. Major issue about the Aadhaar linkage with the phone. All of that we all have probably faced while implementing, and also brought this up well in the discussion. So there's no that aspect to be done. I think what one has to discuss as to what is to be done. In the sense that I think it's all our responsibilities to sort of keep pushing in whichever ways with the government, so that these at least technical issues can be settled. But I think just highlighting the technical issue somehow seems to be saying that these are actually just technical. Because I just want to add one thing, that the fact that the server is so light, a server with the agenda that you want to register 38 crore, and your server is so light, with one is taking an average 1 or 2 days to log on and have a brilliant luck to get oneself register, which means it's just not a technical matter. It's the will of the government to not sort of have a powerful server. It's not within the ambit of the government not to have a good server. If it wants, it can definitely have one. So of course there is somewhere we also have to think that why is that the server is functioning the way it is functioning, and if we can right. I mean, Chandan pointing it out, how much was paid for the server. So obviously, one has to start pushing in all our respective capacities, in the capacities of unions, in the capacities of CSOs, that, you know, I mean, we are understanding what is being done, and therefore write more joint petitions, etc. I mean, all these things need to be done to sort of say that we are understanding the government's will here is not adequate, and therefore at least some whatever has been promised need to be delivered. Second thing, I think what has been discussed a lot here, that while we all welcomed at one stage that fine, at least a recognition of the worker is being provided, which so far wasn't there. So therefore we all welcomed and have all ourselves been on the ground trying to register workers across sectors. What the question that we have is, what will be the benefits that the workers will get? And the pension that has been promised clearly is not the pension, and that the 2 lakh rupees, the accident, not even the pension, the accidental thing that has been promised, clearly we know is not something that is very significant. I mean, probably what came to my mind initially when I was engaging with it is, perhaps we will see 500 rupees direct cash transfer being made just before the election to everyone registered. But will there be something more than that? Will the CIS board be created the way they were being said? Will the existing sectoral boards, which were, if not fully functioning, but still somewhat functioning, will be able to work the way they were under the state governments? All these questions, which I think Chandan and others have already pointed out, need to be probably raised right now. I mean, we can't, say ki ho gaya to ho gaya. Probably a lot of joint initiatives can be done towards doing that. I think I'll stop there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Great information from the presentations made by experts. Thank you, Chandan, for raising all those very, very important questions that the civil society organization should keep raising. Yeah, please add to my information. If I could not see the mention of rural sector workers in the whole list of workers that can register on eShram portal. So are we leaving out those 67% workers who are working in rural areas, in fishery, animal husbandry, in agriculture sector, handicraft sector, and all those things, because I couldn't see a mention of that. And these are the people who need the help most, because their work depends largely on climate. And as we are seeing a lot of impact of climate change, especially on rural sector work, they are many a times out of work. So they need that kind of a social security. Are we taking into account the rights of social security protection rights of these workers, or I was at fault not finding their names in the list? So if somebody can apprise me of that. And if that is missing, then I think we need to work in that regard as well. I would like to know from you all, how do you feel about it?
It's there, Jyoti. In fact, most of the workers who have
Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you. Now I invite Father Jason Vadasheri.
Thank you for the very rich presentation today we had. Thank you for arranging such a nice session, and the information that we have been getting from different resource persons. We were also excited looking at least something is coming for workers. Means some recognition for them. The database is going to be created. But this session is giving the anxiety how this has to be seen or accommodated with little reservation. Rather, when we look at the database is created, at least we can see how many workers are there, because we don't have a kind of database in our country. People are working. While we have been working for universal social security, we have the kind of tendency to take whatever is the government is giving. Every time government is giving us with something, and always we are just taking it And sometimes we are fooled as well. We were not taken into the right direction by the government, but this is the situation of the country. At least when we look at the situation of the migrants in our country, even the pandemic, whatever the government was providing, that was not reaching to them. Therefore, at least for the success, what we at this point listening to this, even though there are little kind of setbacks or kind of issues coming up, but we are just at least look at the possibility of registering them and make that what we can move ahead, rectifying the issues that we are just perceiving regarding accessibility, how we can make workers get into this, we can improve working with government and civil society organizations, trade unions, and at this point, listening to all these, we can work together to improve what have been given to us, and again, still working for the larger perspective of universal social security for everyone. That has to be right, that we should not compromise. Thank you very much for the patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you for the Jason. And now actually other participants, definitely there are various opinions. Already two clear dimensions that the portal has innate issues and problems which needs to be sorted out in the course of time, as well as there is a possibility that data itself is a tool for negotiation. Once data is generated, we can make use for furthering the process. So having heard from experts and also the responses, listen to the participants, so the resource persons can come in, because the resource persons on both sides.
Friends, the floor is open.
Yeah, see that.
Please come in.
The floor is open for the comments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Good evening to all who are present. My name is Adrian. I'm representing IGSS here. I'm working as a researcher in the urban poverty team here at IGSS. Therefore, I'm representing the urban team within IGSS. So I just had a couple of points to add. This is a very valuable discussion. Thank you for all the speakers to give us your points. A few of my points were that even though as everyone has said that there may be a lot of issues with the eShram website and the political will behind it, and even though the portal is open for workers, there may not be enough push from the government to follow through with the registration. So I think as CSOs, it is definitely our responsibility on the ground to further the registration as much as possible. So from the IGSS side, we can share that in the 13 cities where we are directly intervening with slums and informal workers, cities in the states of Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Delhi, and Maharashtra. We have already started registering workers under the eShram portal. We have a target by the end of next month to do at least 2,000 workers by the end of this month, by the end of October, and to begin with. And it is also my supervisor Arvind. He also wanted to share that this group, as CSO members, as researchers on the ground, we should also coordinate, and the mailing group can be used to coordinate any more amendments required, any more advocacy that is required from our sides. As we are doing the registration, we will know more about the problems that are occurring for the workers. So that is something that we can definitely do. We can keep forwarding each other these amendments, these suggestions from the ground and from our own expertise, and we can take that forward. That's all I would like to contribute.
Thank you, Adrian, for promising that the civil society must engage and move forward. I think Dharmendra has some comments. He is raising the hands.
Yeah,
Come on, Dharmendra.
I just wanted to respond to Jyoti's query that whether agriculture is there or not. Jyoti, agriculture is there as a sector, and there are 10 workers which have been mentioned against agriculture sector. For example, we have field crop and vegetable growers, tree and livelihood, poultry, and crop farm laborers. So we have agricultural laborers as a category there. Fishery is also there, aquaculture is also there. Then you have garden, horticulture, plantation workers. So it's there. Agriculture works is there.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to respond?
Father, I want to respond.
Yeah. Welcome, welcome.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
No,
You're
I just
right.
want to say one thing.
Yeah.
See, there are a lot of glitches. There are a lot of leakages, glitches, whatever you say it. We can use so many synonyms, whatever. But actually, we are planning to write a second set of statements on the basis of our experience. It's been almost 2 months. Comrade Dharmendra, 2 महीना कितना हो गया? 2 months हो गया ना? 2 months. Yeah?
1 month.
1
It
month.
was
Sorry,
launched
1
on
month.
26th. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Only barely 1 month. So there are a lot of glitches. So we want to address it, and we can write back to the government and explain all these questions. And we also have one window that the window is to basically going back to the court, because there cannot be a disagreement that these things basically created through the huge citizens pressure and then went to the court, and some of us were the direct party in the court. I mean, we are creating data, providing data to the Supreme Court, like on the periodical basis, like on every month, like that. So we need to basically create that. And we have a very little hope on the Ministry of Labor that they will take cognizance to our complaints and the concerns. And therefore, we are actually planning to, submit the, the additional affidavit so that the court can also take cognizance and take some action on that. So I urge I urge all our comrades who are participating in this meeting today that whoever, like Adrian said about that, and whoever is part of the the registration, if you come across the workers kind of the hesitant attitude about, or hesitant kind of I mean, not feeling confident about to getting registration, then because of the losing rights, as I pointed out by Dharmendra Bhai and other people, that they might lose their rights for at other different boards, other sectoral boards. So whatever experience you have, please write us back, because we are preparing the statement, the second state of statement, and also going to the court by developing a fresh affidavit and wishes to get some action. So please, just wanted to make a small appeal. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chandan, for taking the whole course forward with the court itself. Now I think Dharmendra is raising the hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I would like to participate. I am Aparna. I'm an advocate by qualification, and I'm representing Safe in India Foundation. And in my present role, I'm the ESIC Systematic Improvement Executive. This session has been very insightful, and thank you for inviting us over. I have a query regarding workers who are registered in ESIC and have unfortunately been unemployed. How wise, or what is your take on of the experts? Should we recommend them to be registered under at eShram portal, so that they are able to avail the social benefits, whatever are under the scheme? Because they definitely are not able to avail ESIC benefits because they're not paying contribution. They've been unemployed for 2 years now.
I can reply if nobody is replying.
Yes, and then continue.
See, that's a very complex question, Aparna. This economy is not generating any jobs, and therefore these workers also, have to find some alternative employment. And now, is also the process where they only kind of, registered with the ESIC doesn't help, because if there's no contribution, ESIC also doesn't, kind of allow you to avail the benefits, right? So technically, if you don't have jobs for 2 years, it means that you you basically you stand unemployed and you also deprived from accessing the benefits. I would say that. And therefore I would say that if the workers feel that no, he's going to get the jobs, and again his employer is his or her employer going to get them enrolled in the ESIC, that's a different question. But keeping in mind the present economy, I think you can definitely encourage them to get registration done. And this is also a tricky thing because this portal allows you to register only if you're not enrolled with the ESIC and EPFO. So thank
That
you
is
for
my
raising,
concern.
yeah, thank you for raising this question, because this is also one of the things which we have been trying to understand. I was speaking to one of the ex-ESIC commissioner, and I asked the same questions to him. It's like कि मेरे पास तो कोई उत्तर नहीं है, आपको सरकार से ही पूछना पड़ेगा. तो अभी बहुत सारे सवाल का जवाब नहीं है, पर ना थोड़ा सा हमको रुकना भी पड़ेगा. हम सारे सवाल को कंसोलिडेट ही कर रहे हैं अभी. ये क्या-क्या सवाल है, जैसे आपने ये सवाल पूछा, is a very important question and we would like to basically raise it. So give me 2-3 days. I'll come back to you.
It'll be great if you could
I'll
write.
come back to you on that.
Or
Sure,
your
sure.
cordials.
I'll
Yeah,
write to
get in touch.
I'll write to Anil, and Anil can circulate to everyone.
All
Give
right,
me
yeah,
2-3
that'll be
days.
great.
I'll come
Thank you.
back.
No, actually, see, there is, means at present, there is no system, means the system will not accept workers who are registered under EPF and ESI. That is what according to the portal's existence, present existence.
Yeah.
So that means lakhs of workers will be out of the benefits of the systems who are the real informal, like contract workers, fixed term workers, or even people working under, means this occupation, the social security code says that even hazardous establishment, even with one worker, has to register under ESI. So that means even if they, means that is not functioning, their registration not functioning, but under document they are ESI holders. So that means there will be a technicality. That is the whole issue of this Aadhaar linkages with all these benefits. Means people cannot avail different benefits at the same time. That will prevent them. So these technicalities are there, and we have to raise these technicalities, and the government has to rectify. Means it has to come as a policy decision. Means it's not a technical issue, but it has to come as a policy decision. So that is what we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to more insights and working together on these issues.
Yeah.
Anyone
Can I-
else?
Government
Can
itself,
I
they have a
add
lot of
something on
confusion.
this?
Yeah,
Yes, please.
Dharmendra has something. Yeah, more to
Yeah,
add.
just
Come on,
just
come
from
on.
our experience that we manage some tents for homeless during winter. That is only for 3 months, and we register them under the ESI. But after that, they go out of ESI. So this eShram portal has no exit way. It's only one way right now. Once you are registered on the eShram portal, you can only update, whenever you wish. That's the positive thing, that you can update your basic data like mobile number, your address, your bank details, but you cannot come out of this. This is a UN number, Pan India, and for lifelong. So it's a lifetime number that you have got. So this is a question that there should be a way to come out of this. Workers, migrant workers, informal workers are revolving. There may be cases where they will get ESI, and there may be the next day they can be out of ESI. So this needs to be brought in the portal feature.
Yeah, the alarm over here is that if they enroll themselves in the Shram portal and subsequently they join an employment which provides ESIC protection, how eligible they will be for ESIC coverage? Because of course, Shram portal, I do not see
No, if they are-
any benefits being achieved, or it is still sublime. We cannot say anything about that. It's a gray area. The benefits under this Shram portal, you don't even know conditions, where, how, what benefits is anybody going to achieve when they enroll in the Shram portal.
Yes, it is almost time, and I think we can conclude the section. And
Okay, another thing I want to ask, it came to my attention that some agencies are charging workers to register, whereas this is supposed to be a free of cost process. Is there any complaint mechanism or any penalization for such people?
No, they are helping.
No, they're asking for money from workers. So
Correct.
government giving them a commission is different.
Oh, okay,
For workers, it has to be free of cost.
okay.
But
Hello.
many unions are charging 20 rupees, and I
That's
think
right.
that's reasonable. I don't think
That
that's
is
Hello.
something wrong.
reasonable, so that it can be authenticated.
Yes, yes.
For that, no complaint should be raised, and unnecessarily the person who's going to be registered also will not be. So 20 rupees is reasonable. We'll have to just ignore it. That's it. And one question I would like to raise.
Yes, please.
Up to December, the registration has to be closed, is it? The time limit is very less, what I think.
No,
Don't you think?
it's not time limit, Anthony. It's
No, December
target.
31st is the last they were telling, right?
No. They have set a target that they want to achieve certain numbers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
no, it's not like that. Yeah.
So anytime we can.
Ambitious
after that
plan.
also.
Ambitious
After that
plan,
also. After that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you so
ambitious
much.
plan, yeah, very ambitious.
Thank you, Chandan. Thank you so much. I'm Anthony from Hyderabad.
Yes.
Anthony, sir, I have one thing to ask. 20 rupees definitely is reasonable. But do we have any regulating authority? Because we know of places in Haryana, they are charging 50 rupees, 100 rupees. It depends on center to center.
Oh. That has to be given a thought. Yeah.
That's right. So is there any redressal
Mr.
mechanism where they can raise a complaint if they're being charged?
Mr. Chandan can answer this, I think, most probably.
I mean, see, if the unions is charging 20 rupees, which is reasonable, but
Reasonable, yeah.
there's always a kind of middleman, agent,
Exactly.
dalal type of people basically who do
Exactly.
that. And
Exactly.
you have a space, you can use the provisions that, if you see the penal provisions, the Social Security Code 2020, there are sections basically talk about that if anybody misuses this law, that then there will be a penal action. Because this card is being given under section 141 of the Social Security Act, Labor Code of Social Security, which means if anybody is found, misusing the law, that is subject to the prosecution. So, Aparna, of course, you can, if you know some agency who are kind of cheating the workers, please go ahead and file the case. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for the insight.
It comes
Hello,
under
again.
labor code, is it?
Sorry?
It comes under labor code, right?
Yes, labor code on Social
Labor law,
Security.
labor
yes.
law.
Labor code on Social Security 2020.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay, right. That's fine.
Yeah, Anil, if you could tell a little way forward that how are we going to go ahead and
The plan is we'll have a larger consultation, stakeholder consultation with various organizations, NGOs, institutes working with the unorganized sector workers. We're supposed to have a larger awareness campaign, partnering with you all friends. And as a way forward, we propose to have that consultation sometime in the next month. We can't delay further.
all right.
Mr. Anil,
Yes.
Mr. Anil, one sister by name Sister Lizzie
Yes. Hyderabad.
is from Hyderabad.
Yes.
She's got a very good information, and she's got a lot of things to do for these workers. If you bring her in the line and if you can talk it over, she's got about more than 300 to 400 ladies, women workers with her.
Yes.
Organization like,
Yeah.
National Workers Movement like that, the name is.
Yes.
So that we can get a lot of information to support this, women folk.
Yes.
Sister Lizzie is very active in that in Hyderabad.
Yeah, we are already in touch with her. And
Please,
the zonal level consultation.
Even today's meeting, I have invited her. I don't know why she's not been there.
Okay. Yeah.
If anything is there, kindly put in her a word. So
Yeah.
that next meetings we can have more meaningful discussions with her. She's got really the instant 50 to 500 to 600 women folk where she's managing and organizing them and helping them. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for the session.
Thank you so
much. Friends, on behalf of the organizers, main Migrant Assistance and Information Network, Caritas India Labour Office of the CBCI, SVD, and Don Bosco for Migrants, I thank all our esteemed speakers for enlightening us on the E-Shram portal in this important technical consultation. A big thank you, Father Eugene Pereira, Director, Workers India Federation, for moderating the session despite the minor technical glitches, and Dr. Swiji Chakko, Director, Main, for opening remarks and welcoming the speakers and participants. Thank you, Dr. Sonia George from SEWA, who has really enriched the discussion with her important remarks on the portal, the various challenges, especially with regard to the registration. Comrade Chandran Kumar from the Working People's Charter has brought to light the nuances of the portal. He spoke mainly of the exclusion of those above the age of 60, issues related to data privacy and social security. Mr. Dharmendra Kumar from Jan Pahal, as we heard him, has been involved in the registration of unorganized sector workers in Delhi. Based on his experience so far, he wanted the onus of workers' registration on the government and not on the workers. Dharmendra ji has enlightened the importance of raising workers' awareness, especially of those who are registered under various state boards. Thank you, Dharmendra ji, for joining us today. We really had a very enriching participation of your friends. I thank all the participants representing various organizations working with our unorganized workers from across India. A very good evening to you all. Thank you.